Hi guys, my name is Elise and welcome back to another week with the Foundry Kids, and welcome to week 1 of our October series called Cliffhanger, The Story Isn't Over Yet. And we are continuing on learning about Abraham's family in the book of Genesis this month, because that story was not over, not even close to being over. So today we are talking about Abraham's, I think, great-grandson. I have to think about how far away he is now, but we're talking about a guy named Joseph. And Joseph's story is really important in the Bible, and Joseph is able to do some really cool things for God, but also not everybody liked Joseph. So we're going to hear about some times that Joseph's story sounded like it might have been over, but God wasn't done with him yet. There was still a plan. So before we start our lesson for today, we're going to stand up and sing a new song.
Everything keeps telling me to quit and not go where I'm going. But I'm never ever gonna stop, and there's no signs of slowing. Ooh, now I'm moving backward. Ooh, I'm moving forward. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power when it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. I'm committed to your plan, so I'll follow all of my days. Every day you give me strength to follow after your way. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power when it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. Yeah, you give me the power. Ooh, now I'm moving backward. Ooh, I'm moving forward. 'Cause you give me the power to never give up. You give me your power and it's more than enough. I made my decision, quitting's not an option. No matter how hard it gets, I know I'm in, 'cause you give me the power. Yeah, God gives me the power. You give me the power.
Joseph's story comes from the book of Genesis, just like Abraham's story did. And today we are actually covering 3 chapters in the book of Genesis. And his story isn't even over by the time we finish these 3 chapters. Like, it's kind of a long story. But we are talking about chapters 37, 39, and 40 today. So we are going to learn more about Joseph and how he was still able to serve God even though people didn't always like him.
But now it's time for
The story before the story.
Today we're in the very first book of the Old Testament, Genesis. God created the whole amazing world, but people turned away and broke their relationship with God.
Still, God had a plan. God called Abraham and Sarah and promised to bless the whole world through their family.
Abraham and Sarah had a son, Isaac, who had a son named Esau and a son named Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons,
including the next to youngest, Joseph. And Joseph is the hero of our story.
And go.
Hey everyone!
Hey, Ryan.
Oh boy, you better strap in because we are in for a bumpy ride with Joseph. Joseph was second youngest in the family, and he was his father Jacob's favorite son. Jacob gave Joseph a beautiful, expensive, colorful robe. Joseph started having dreams, and he couldn't keep them to himself. He had to tell his brothers.
We were harvesting grain, and all your grain bundles bowed to mine. And in my other dream, the sun and moon and stars bow to me. That's like Mom and Dad and you guys.
Great way to make your big brothers like you, huh? Joseph's brothers were very jealous of him. So when Joseph's dad sent him to check up on his brothers out on the fields, they snapped.
Here comes that dreamer.
Let's get rid of him.
No, don't harm him. Just throw him in this empty pit.
And that's exactly what they did. They threw him in a pit. They were still deciding what to do with Joseph when a group of traders heading for Egypt showed up.
Let's sell him to these traders.
Joseph was sold by his very own brothers. His brothers even lied and told their father Joseph was dead.
No way.
Uh-huh. Can you imagine? Joseph was a teenage kid on his own in a foreign country, sold into slavery. He was sold to a man named Potiphar, captain of the king Pharaoh's guards. Joseph didn't know anyone, didn't speak the language. He could have given up, but God was with him, even in Egypt. Joseph worked so hard and did so well that over several years he gained Potiphar's trust. Eventually, Potiphar put Joseph in charge of his entire estate. Things were finally looking up for Joseph, until they fell apart. Again. Potiphar's wife was sneaky, and she wanted Joseph to do something wrong. When he refused, she threw a tantrum!
He tried to hurt me!
Throw him in prison!
Now, Joseph was on his own, enslaved in a foreign land, and in prison. Yeah, it was time for him to have an epic pity party, right? I mean, that's probably what I would have done. But Joseph was still growing. He'd come a long way from that overconfident kid who had boasted to his brothers. God was with Joseph, even in jail. Joseph still worked hard, taking care of chores, helping other prisoners. The man who ran the jail was so impressed he put Joseph in charge of everything. One day, 2 brand new prisoners arrived, straight from the royal palace. The Pharaoh's royal baker and his official drink taster. Joseph made sure they were comfortable. Well, as comfortable as you can be in jail. But one morning, both of these guys showed up at the breakfast table looking pretty upset.
Why do you look so sad today?
We both had dreams. But no one can tell us what they mean.
Only God knows what dreams mean. Tell me what you saw.
Ah, now we're back to where we started, right? With dreams. The drink taster told of seeing a vine that budded and grew bunches of grapes. And then the drink taster squeezed the grapes right into Pharaoh's cup.
Pharaoh will release you from prison and give you your job back.
Yes!
When he does, please put in a good word for me.
Well, after this, the baker was excited to hear about his dream, where baskets of bread sat on the baker's head and birds ate the bread.
Pharaoh will release you from prison and have you killed.
What? That's pretty awful news to have to give someone. But it happened just as God had revealed to Joseph. In 3 days, the baker was killed. But the drink taster was released from prison and given his job back.
Now the drink taster will remember to tell Pharaoh about me and I'll get out.
So, you think the drink taster remembered?
Yep.
Nope. So, Joseph was still stuck alone, in a foreign land, in prison, forgotten. But even then, God was with him. The end. For now.
Wait. You can't leave us hanging like that.
Yeah, things got better for Joseph, right?
Well, I don't want to give the whole story away, but spoiler alert, God used Joseph in a big way. And fast forward hundreds of years later, God would use Joseph's family to bless the whole world through Jesus. But none of that happened right away.
So, what's our part in the story?
Well, just like for Joseph, there are going to be days when things don't work out neatly for us.
Maybe you missed the bus.
Or you spill the milk. Or food coloring explodes on you.
Or anything bad happens that you don't expect. Even in the hardest, darkest place, God is still with you. Even when you can't see it, God is still at work.
So, we can hold on and keep going.
And choose a good attitude.
By George, I think you've got it.
See you next time.
Man, there were a bunch of people who didn't like Joseph, even though he was just trying to do the right thing. He was just trying to share a dream that he had with his brothers, and they got so mad at him that they got rid of him and made him go to Egypt. And then in Egypt, he was just trying to be a good guy, and then he ended up going to prison in Egypt, and then he had to deliver some bad news to people in prison in Egypt, and he went through a lot. But Joseph was able to hold on because he remembered that God was with him. And I want you guys to remember that too. If you're going through something that's kind of tough, hold on because God is still with you. And because it's a new month, we have a new memory verse this month. So our memory verse this month is from Galatians, which is in the New Testament. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. And this is what it says. It says, "Let us not become tired of doing good, for at the right time we will gather a crop if we don't give up." So again, we don't want to give up because God is always with us. And our memory verse is Galatians 6, verse 9. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye.